Hello, everyone. In today's podcast, we mark the beginning of an education series on cybersecurity. Cybersecurity affects all of us, and that's why we invited Advait Marathe on our podcast. Advait is an experienced professional, someone who is passionate and knowledgeable in the cybersecurity domain. He's a graduate from Indiana University and someone who really understands the subject. In today's podcast, we talked about multiple things. We talked about right from the basics. So it was more like an introduction to cybersecurity. We also talked about how all of that affects right from an organizational level to a personal level and also to the people around us. One of the things that we did in this podcast was actually invite someone from another generation who's slightly older, that was my dad, and have some of the questions that perhaps someone who's not in this tech domain would ask. So if you are someone who is interested in cybersecurity, who wants to know more, or if you have someone like a parent or uncles or aunts and grandparents who want to learn more about cybersecurity, then this podcast is definitely for you. I hope that you find value and you share it with the people who need cybersecurity awareness the most. Let's keep it secure and let's just start with the podcast.
नहीं मैं बना दे ठीक है
So, Advait,
हम्म
what is cybersecurity?
what is cybersecurity
Mm-hmm.
depends on the context in which you are asking the question. Honestly, cybersecurity is a very vast term to address.
Let's start here, na? You tell me,
um,
what do you do as a cybersecurity engineer, cybersecurity analyst? Is that a role, or what are the kinds of
Cybersecurity
roles?
engineer, analyst, there are bunch of roles within cybersecurity, and cybersecurity for organizations is very different versus cybersecurity for a layperson who
Hmm.
is not even. So I think in the most fundamental sense, you can say cybersecurity is protecting whatever important information, data, whatever you have that is digital. Because
Okay.
what is you can kind of segment it into two ways. What is physical security? Right? Physical security is your doors, windows to your house, a bank safe. It's physical security. You are storing something valuable inside a locker.
Hmm.
You have a house. You put a door on that house. You
Correct.
are protecting the house. So cyber security is the same concept, but applied to the digital realm.
Okay. Mhm. Makes sense.
So what are your doors and windows for your digital world? Let's take an example of your phone. What is a door? Your passcode
Hmm.
or password or face ID,
Good
something like
analogy.
that. Is a digital door or fingerprint for that matter. So that is a door for your cyber security. So that is cyber security is anything that you have something that is digital asset, digital property, you can say, and you want to protect it. So what an organization wants to protect is very different from an individual wants to protect. An organization wants to protect their data, intellectual property, their devices,
Hmm.
things like that. What would an individual want to protect? Their social media accounts, their bank accounts, What
Personal
else?
photos, personal photos.
Personal photos. That comes more on the privacy side of things, but
Okay,
yeah, you can consider that. Purely from security standpoint, your data, any data you have. The data means everything, your photos, videos, you have your conversations, your messages that are private, that are
correct.
digital. So all those things, protecting all of that, all of those things is cybersecurity.
Okay,
And then as you come to how you protect that, then
the
there's
subject
different.
like expands, right?
Correct.
So in that, if I have, let's say I'm writing a novel, right, and I don't
Hmm.
want to leak it, something
Hmm.
like J.K.
Correct.
Rowling, right, and I'm
Correct.
writing it, and it's my own thing. I don't want to release it to anyone.
Hmm.
So if I'm most likely people either write it in the first draft in their book or in
Correct.
the laptop, correct?
Hmm.
So if
Correct.
I have to do, if I just keep a password on a document, even that is
Hmm.
cybersecurity.
You can consider that because then you are protecting anything and everything that is sensitive. So
Okay.
is it sensitive? Yes. For you, it is sensitive. It may not be end of the world, but you may have $1 million novel sitting there. You don't know
Hmm.
that yet. So you want to protect that is that I would again classify as in a way your IP,
Okay.
right? Like that it's your intellectual property with that novel that you're writing. Because you don't know, it might be a New York Times bestseller tomorrow.
I doubt
So
that, but okay. So
you
you
never know.
explained how what is cybersecurity protecting anything that is digital, one line, right? That's a great summary to put that in.
Mhm.
But let's go back to what do you do then as a cybersecurity engineer? Because what is the role? I don't know
Mhm.
exactly because I hear about like writing policies, building
Mhm.
firewalls,
Mhm.
encryption. These are all code. I hate to say buzzwords, but that's what I hear about. So what does your role entail?
So it may mean different things to different people again, depending on who you're asking that question to. A cybersecurity engineer as a job description will leave that out of the equation for now because companies make up job descriptions all the time. So let's not focus on job description or job title. We can better break it down as what the field is and what the field comprises. So you mentioned a few things. You mentioned encryption, you mentioned policies, you mentioned firewalls. So those are some keywords, and those are mostly technical words. But how, in what bucket those words fall? I think we can break that down into different buckets. So there is simple, I think breakdown we can do into two parts purely for just for simplicity's sake, technical and non-technical. Again, these are not binary distinctions, but let's just put them into two buckets, technical and non-technical.
Okay.
When you say technical, you are writing code, you are building systems, and these are digital systems, things like that. You are securing your cloud, your cloud assets. You need to first understand how cloud operates. What are different components in, let's say, an example of a cloud provider, AWS or Azure, anything you pick. You first need to understand how those technologies work.
Right.
You need to have some fundamental technical knowledge in order to effectively secure those systems.
Okay.
Because if you don't know how something operates, how are you going to secure it? Right? If you
Correct.
don't know, if you have a lock, let's say,
Correct.
but you don't know how to lock it, you don't know how the key works, then how are you going to lock a door with that lock? So similarly, you have some technical control and you have a technology and you are a security control and you have a technology. You're trying to put that security control on that technology. Maybe this is getting too technical, But
Yeah, I honestly I'm losing you a little bit, Adarsh.
okay,
Okay, but let
you
me
can
ask you
bring me
this
back
way.
anytime.
No, no,
Yeah.
thank you. Let me ask you something. Um,
Hmm.
See, when there's somebody, whenever you design something, like an architect will give you a
Hmm.
plan,
Hmm.
and then the engineer will, put the solution of how it's going to like build, and then someone who's laying down the bricks, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you take
Correct.
just that analogy, right from top to
Hmm.
bottom,
Hmm.
how does that landscape look for cybersecurity? Or let me take a step back, and is there such a landscape for cybersecurity also?
We
Design,
can map
implementation.
it. Yeah, we can map it that to what you just described. We
Okay,
can map those things, or we can map that in terms of IT, essentially. So IT, if you think about it, there is a person, we can call him IT architect. Just like you will have an architect for the house who will give you a plan.
right.
An IT architect will give you a plan on how that system is going to look
Okay,
in when you put it together. You what is a system? You are putting a bunch of components together to build something that gives you what you want, gives you the result that you desire. That is
right,
an IT system. So somebody is going to give you a blueprint of what that system should look like. And then you have the actual engineers who is building it hands-on, who is going in and selecting those components, or picking those components. I want to use this versus this,
hmm,
depending on what her functionality is, things like that. So there will be an engineer who's building, this is a software developer who will be building a system,
okay,
right? So those are the two key people. Where does security fit into this? Security will fit into every step in this process. First, your design should be secure. I think let's continue the analogy of a building.
yeah,
When an architect is creating a plan, I think they need to ensure that beams and columns and everything is in order so that the entire structure stands.
right.
Right? Similarly, an IT architect would have to think about if this system one is going to be functional,
Mm-hmm,
if you build it a certain way. And
correct,
second thing, are there any holes in the system? The architect can't build a plan where there are no windows to a house or no windows to a building.
right,
I mean, it can depending on your scenario, but let's consider a normal house, which will
right,
probably have a window. So you don't want somebody designing without windows, but you still want it to be structurally sound. You want doors so that you are protecting the inside of the house, right? All those things. Similarly, when you're designing IT system, you want something that is foolproof. People shouldn't be able to take undue advantage of your system. So
right.
you're designing it in such a way that it is not prone to fraud or unintended use of your system that you are building. Now,
Okay,
those things should not happen. So that is at the design level you are thinking about that. You will take care of some things at the design level. You can introduce flaws at every level. And similarly, if you take this analogy one level up, then somebody that is laying the bricks of the house actually, now the plan is ready. You have
right.
brought all the raw material, now you're laying the bricks.
Hmm,
Your wall can be tilted like this.
hmm,
That is a that flaw happened not during design, but that flaw happened when you are trying to actually build the structure. Similarly, there can be flaws introduced when you are laying the bricks in the software sense.
correct,
So somebody is trying to use a technology to build a system,
right.
but that technology has severe security issues, for example, already known that if you use that technology, you know these flaws exist in this technology, and you are still choosing to use that.
Hmm,
PHP is a great example of such technology. So PHP has very well known security issues, have had security issues for a long time. If you still choose to use PHP today, in today's day and age,
yeah.
versus using a more modern language, programming language, which has all the safety features built in. It's like opting for a substandard door to your house versus opting for the latest and greatest door.
Correct. No, I think I get what you're trying to give by that example, but just so that everybody kind of understands,
Hmm.
tell what is PHP also, right? Like we just threw out like
PHP is a
PHP.
programming language.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was one of the oldest, it is probably one of the oldest programming languages. Not really, but yeah, probably in the 90s it was very popular. 90s and early 2000s. I
Okay.
think Facebook was entirely built on PHP to begin with, and then they moved away from that. So,
But then let me counter question you on this, okay?
hmm.
Because something is like old and it has been around, people have been using it, that means there are more
Hmm.
developers on that particular language, right? Like for
Hmm.
example, um, Ford has been around for such a long time, or Ferrari has been around for such a long time. So the way that they build their cars have evolved, right? So if you to take the same thing, wouldn't the programming language be actually more robust and more better, if I can say that, in terms of its security, because it has been around for that long that it has seen those kinds of threats, and there are more people
Hmm.
working on it, more people are aware, so people have put
Hmm.
the right safeguards rather than some of these newer technologies that are coming. What would you say to that? So first of all, is that a fair question to ask?
I think that's a fair question, but it's not a fair comparison. I would say it's not apples to apples comparison because Ford is still not manufacturing the same car that it was manufacturing uh, 50 years ago. The programming language fundamentally to change is quite difficult. Because to build a programming language in itself is a big ordeal.
Okay.
So if you're building, take Java for example, Java has been around forever, 30, 20, 30 years easily. Java has been around even long. Maybe, yeah, it was developed in Sun Microsystems. So it's been around for quite a while.
Okay.
But it has evolved quite a bit, and Java doesn't have the same issues that PHP. So some of them are also by design, right? So it depends where the issues were introduced. Again, you can apply the same analogy to building any system. You have to understand where the issues were introduced. Were they introduced in the design phase? Were they
Hmm.
introduced in the actual construction phase, or what? Because if you have design flaws,
Right.
what are you going to do? No matter how you construct it, if you
Correct.
have design flaws, if the architect has messed up the design, then how are you going to fix it just by being a person who is laying the bricks?
Correct. Okay.
Because if you
No,
if your
makes
plan says
sense.
your plan is to build a wall slanted,
Right.
then you're going to build because you say plan says this. How can I build something that is now a straight wall? Things like that. So it depends.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Other what I'd like to do is I just pulled up a random Indeed job description of
Uh-huh.
a cybersecurity engineer. So help us make sense of what this job entails. Okay, so I'll quickly read out like job responsibilities: protects enterprise information, intellectual assets, business operations, accidental intentional disruption. Then
Mm.
conceptualizes, designs, builds secure IT systems. I think you said that, with responsibility of system and network development for preference architecture, performs highly specialized review and evaluation of incoming cybersecurity information to determine its usefulness. This is not really well written, but anyways,
No, it's horribly written. I don't want to.
most of the job description these days are just bullshit. So you never
Just
know.
random garbage that has been put together. Even
Yeah,
ChatGPT might be able to produce a better job description that is more coherent than what these people have put. But those words mean nothing to me. What you
exactly.
just read
Yeah,
means I don't think it means anything to anyone. It doesn't mean it because the first two sentences I was with you, and after
Yeah.
that, I don't even know what is incoming cybersecurity information. What does that even mean?
Yeah,
I
just
have no idea.
words strung together, right? And I think
Yeah,
this is a problem in general. I don't know if um, job recruiters, HR, I don't want to like pinpoint, but it seems like people are just getting lazy to. It's a trend I've seen everywhere. But
yeah.
here, I think this one, I would be also, if I'm looking at uh, a job, involved in developing, modifying, and executing company policies and procedures that affect
Hmm.
cybersecurity operations and ensure compliance with applicable standards and regulations. Example: NERC, CIP, Sarbanes-Oxley.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
So this all there is an entire realm of cybersecurity under if you consider the cybersecurity umbrella,
Right?
there is an entire subfield of that. It's typically called GRC. It's abbreviated, a lot of abbreviations in security.
Correct.
Cybersecurity, there are a lot of abbreviations. It's to a point that it is very annoying. But one of the sub areas is GRC, which stands for governance, risk, and compliance.
Wait, GRC, governance, risk, and
Risk and compliance.
compliance. GRC.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So that sub area is
Yeah.
what typically deals with all these policies, procedures, compliance with the applicable standards, laws, all of these things. And
And
this is not just IT policies. This
okay.
includes HR policies. This includes your what is the other uh, your IT assets policy. It's not purely cyber. There is information security policy. There is acceptable use policy. How
Okay.
you will use your company's assets and whatnot. So different types of policies fall under this umbrella of GRC.
GRC.
So governance, risk, and compliance. So risk is like you perform risk assessments on your systems. Like you assess your risk. Risk assessment is assessing your risk, as simple as that.
Right.
But you assess where your system has weaknesses,
Okay.
and then you note them down somewhere.
Hmm.
You keep track of them. You prioritize your highest risk depending on what the impact is on your business. So I guess the important point we missed out earlier in the context of a business,
Correct.
security is nothing but how can you protect your business?
Right.
Because because if you have a business and you have something to lose,
Mm-hmm.
somebody can take that thing away from your business. How you minimize that risk that somebody will take something away from you? And how you can maximize your uh, business operations, if you will.
Okay.
Right? So you are trying to figure out, let's take an example. Oh, you're a bank, right?
I'm a bank.
What is your risk? What do you think is your
Money
big
being stolen,
correct?
safety
Exactly. So
deposits
you
being
will
stolen, information being stolen, their social security numbers, personal identification, like deposit boxes. I think that's pretty
correct
much it.
all those things, right? So you will try to rank them into what is the most critical to you, right? Is
Right.
your information being stolen? Number one is your because you can compartmentalize into different things. Safety deposit box gets into the realm of physical security. You have to build vaults. There's an entire specialty of designing bank vaults such
Hmm.
that they are theft proof, things like that. That is also security, but that is more physical security. That is not cyber security as such.
Okay.
Cyber security comes into you have an online banking account. How
Hmm.
do I safeguard that? How can I not take all the money away out of your bank account
Hmm.
as a bad person?
Correct.
I want to steal all your money. I want to steal all of your customers' money. How do I make that happen? And how do you prevent that from happening? How do you prevent me from doing that?
Okay.
So that is security is ensuring your business. thrives and continues. Because at the end of the day, if there is no business, what are you even protecting?
Again, to go
Right?
back to your first statement that you made today was protecting assets, digital assets,
Correct.
in a way. So
Correct.
that kind of is a very three-word definition, I feel,
Yeah.
that's
But then
pertinent.
if you have a business,
Yeah,
and then security sometimes can go overboard.
yeah,
That saying, oh, you need this needs to be secure, that needs to be secure, this needs to be safeguarded, and you get to a point where your business becomes inoperative.
okay,
And that is
makes
also
sense.
unacceptable. Because you can't be too strict with anything, then you will not let anything happen. You put so much friction into everything that you let nothing happen. And if there is no business, then what are you even securing? Because you're not making money.
Hmm.
Then why does it even matter? There's nothing to steal.
Then, yeah, exactly. Then there's no point
Just
having,
put it out there in open. There's nothing, nobody will even take it because there's no incentive for anyone to take it.
right. But
So it's
even
all
when you
about
put out
incentives.
something, yeah, you're right about incentives. Even if you put it out in public, like for example, I was just thinking of Wikipedia.
Hmm.
They put it out in public because, but if anybody kind of changes it, I don't think Wikipedia is the right example, but uh,
No, they have, so if you think about that, they have safeguards so that how can we, they goes through one, two, three layers of verification on Wikipedia changes. Even though everybody is
correct.
allowed to contribute, your change may not necessarily make it to the final article
Okay. Hmm.
because somebody decides to
Right.
decline. That there is a review that happens. So that is also security in a way.
In a way. Okay.
Or what if somebody gets into Wikipedia systems and decides to delete all the articles that have been written?
Right.
That is
That
also a
that's
bad
a
thing.
that's a potential threat. Would you say that?
Correct. Yeah, it
Okay.
is. Somebody wants to nuke entire Wikipedia. What do you do? Do you have
Yeah.
backups to restore it from, or you are just losing all the information?
One thing, Advait, on this was the
Hmm.
word I use the word threat, right? And I know that in security they use the word threat and vulnerability differently. So what's the
Hmm.
difference between the two, and how do you treat these two words? Because we can't interchange those, right?
Hmm. So I would say vulnerability in context of a system
Yeah.
is inherent weakness in the
Okay.
system is the vulnerability. What is there? You say there is a vulnerability. That means there is a weak spot somewhere in the system that you can poke through,
Okay.
and then you will bypass the safety mechanisms. Right?
Mm, okay.
While threat is just a probability of something bad happening, there is a threat of World War III. What does that mean? That there is a possibility that, or there is a risk of
That
that
that might
happening.
happen. Likelihood. Okay.
Correct. But there is no, again, like in cybersecurity, if you go to say, then they have words like likelihood, impact, risk, vulnerability, threat. All these have different specific definitions.
Okay.
But since we are keeping it simple,
Right.
vulnerability is a weakness in the system.
Weakness.
Threat is a danger to your system. What is a threat?
Dangerous.
You know, so let's take your bank example again.
Yeah.
What is a threat to your bank? That somebody stealing your money,
Getting robbed.
somebody
Yes. Yeah.
breaks into your vault and takes all your money. That is a threat.
Right.
What is a vulnerability? Vulnerability is your vault has a default password of 0000. It's not technically a
Hmm.
vulnerability, but your vault, let's scratch that. Let's not use that. That is not appropriate. But your vault has there is a place there on your vault, and you can bypass the lock on that vault if you press that particular button. You have a panic button on your vault, right?
Okay. No, I think I get where you're trying to go. So let's say even if in that example there was a door
Mhm.
that has just one simple lock, even that is will be a
Correct.
vulnerability because it can be even if I push it,
Easily
the
guessed.
the door
Yeah.
gets. So that's a vulnerability. No, that makes
Vulnerability is
sense.
just something that is there is something some weakness that is
Inherent
present.
weakness in your system
Correct.
itself.
And then threat might be there might be a robber, but
Right.
if there is no vulnerability, how is the robber going to get into your vault, for example?
Makes
Right?
sense. Makes sense. But threat and vulnerability are not connected, interconnected. So, for example, um, if I have the vulnerability, let's say, of a weak door, then
Hmm.
any potential threats arising due to the vulnerability, is there like a connected term? Because
It
getting
can
robbed
be
is a general
connected.
term, right? Like it's a
Correct.
general threat. It's not specifically connected to the vulnerability.
Correct. It may or may not be connected
Okay.
depending on the scenario. Because see, somebody keeping the door open of the vault by
Right.
accident is
Yeah.
not really a vulnerability. So
Okay.
your threat always exists. There is some, if there are no threats, then you have nothing to protect,
Okay.
right? What are you protecting against? There is no threat, there is no risk to anything. Everybody is happy, nobody wants to steal your things.
Right.
Then what are you even protecting? There's no threat, there is no risk, or there is no different terminologies, but there is no reason for you to do anything. There is a reason
Hmm.
here, in this case, for you to do something. That is to safeguard the things that have been kept inside because there are robbers out.
Exactly. No, makes sense. I'm with you on this. So if I were to ask you on just this line, right?
Ah,
Um, we spoke about this just briefly offline. I know, but um, I read about this whole thing with MGM, right? They were
ah,
expecting to lose like $100 million, which is like big. And MGM
ah,
is a big brand, right?
uh-huh.
It's in Las Vegas. They have like big casinos and stuff like that. Would you be able to shed some light on like, what happened and like what are the things that kind
Uh-huh.
of transpired in that big scenario?
I
Because
don't,
news
yeah.
CNN
Mhm.
quite a bit, right?
I don't remember the exact details, but I think what had happened was there was a ransomware attack on the MGM system. So what is a ransomware? We'll have to start there, right? So I guess simplest example, what is ransom? Somebody kidnaps a person, somebody kidnaps, let's say there is a family, somebody kidnaps their kid,
Hmm.
calls them, you give me $50,000 or I'll not release your kid. Something like
Right.
that. Something bad will happen to your kid.
Yeah.
Hostage. They hold them hostage for something and ask for a ransom.
Hmm.
Same thing happens in IT world. So instead of a person, I take your systems hostage, right?
Hmm.
You have your IT systems, you do something, you are operating a casino.
Yeah.
So you have some IT systems running that casino, making sure that it is up and running all the time.
Yes. So
But
just
now I
customer
have
information and everything, right? Even a casino will
anything and
need that.
everything
Yeah.
that is needed. There needs to be a back end. You see all those kiosks, you see those machines.
Right.
Their brain is either in that machine or brain is sitting somewhere centralized that is controlling all those machines.
Hmm.
Or somebody that is critical may not be controlling those machines, but something critical is happening in the background on your machines, on your separate machines that are not people facing.
Yeah.
So what I do is I take your machines hostage. And how I do that, this is where encryption, we haven't really talked about encryption, but encryption in the simplest terms is uh, making that information inaccessible to somebody who is not supposed to have. So let's say you and I are talking
Right.
and I am sending you a message, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
And then if I send it over unencrypted channels, anyone and everyone who gets access to that message in between, because let's assume you and me are on different continents and we have a chit that we
Yeah.
are passing. It's very lame scenario, but let's stick with that. I have a chit that I'm passing from one place to another, and it is
Right.
changing hands in between.
Hmm.
So whoever has the cheat in between can open it and read, hi, how are you? What I'm
Yeah.
sending to you,
Right.
right? But encryption at the most fundamental level will change that hi, how are you into something only you and I understand. Let's
Hmm.
say we agree on that I will change every alphabet to the mirroring letter in the alphabet. So let's assume we replace A for Z and B for Y and so on and so forth. So let's assume we agree on that code. We both know
Right.
about that code. And then so I change that hi, how are you into that code. And whoever reads that chit in between doesn't really understand what that means because they don't know what the code is. So as long as they don't know the
Hmm.
code, so encryption in a way does that. It safeguards information between you and me.
Okay.
So
Makes sense.
how,
Total sense.
yeah. So now we
Advait,
have
let me ask
understood.
you. So, sorry,
Huh.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, now that we have established what encryption is and how it
Yeah.
is good, because now nobody in the middle knows that what you and I are talking. But let's say you don't know the code
Right.
and I make something up and I tell you, go read this. How are you
Hmm.
going to figure that out? And I want
Hmm.
to intentionally lock you out of something. So I will go and encrypt as in jumble it up in a way that you won't understand.
Correct.
And the only way it is that thing is useful to you
Yeah.
is for you to, there is encrypt, there is reverse term for encrypt, decrypt.
Decrypt. Okay. Yeah.
So you are able to decrypt because you know how to decrypt. You know how the encryption and decryption works. So you know A is replaced with Z, B is replaced with Y, and so on and so forth. So you know how
The way to
to,
decrypt. Right.
yes.
Way to unfold.
So correct. So if you don't know that, imagine you don't know that,
Yeah. Then it's useless. That piece of
then it's
information for
useless. Correct.
perfect.
So
No,
what
makes sense.
encryption is something that was made for uh, useful purposes, like for to maintain secrecy of information.
Secrecy. Yeah. I think this has been done for a long time, even when uh, emissaries would carry the messages from one part to
Correct.
another. So
I think
it's
the
not
earliest
something
one
new.
we had was the Caesar cipher, I think. Caesar
Yes.
cipher was the rotate 13 letters, I think. I don't know if that was that, but Caesar cipher may be one of the earliest examples
So it's
of
it's
this.
old. Right.
Yeah.
I know we kind of
So
digressed into
yeah, so
this subject. Yeah.
coming back to what we were talking about. So now that you have understood what encryption is,
Yeah.
uh, we were talking about MGM and how encryption was used in their context against their will. So what happened was somebody got access of their systems
Okay.
and they encrypted their systems and they did not know the code. So I am not an authorized person who should be accessing MGM systems, but I got
Oh,
access to MGM systems. And now I have so it is like imagine you went out and you locked your house, you went out, somebody I come in between, I broke that lock, and
switch
changed
the
the
lock.
lock to your house. Something only I have the key. Somebody did that essentially. So now what are their options? They can't get that information back because they don't know how it was encrypted
Right.
or how they don't have the key to the new lock.
Hmm.
There they have two options.
Yeah.
One is throw the house away, buy a new house. That's essentially the IT equivalent of what, because your system is now useless to you.
Right. No,
So
exactly. You can't get in.
you're pretty much the only option you have is to build a new system that was
Uh,
identical to it and
hmm.
then restore all your data that was on that system
Okay.
and then get that functioning again.
Hmm.
Right? So that is your one option. And the other option is, so coming back to ransomware. Why is it called ransomware? So somebody encrypted your data, but now I'm saying I have the key. So your other option to get your house back is your thief saying, I have the key, give me $50,000 or $500,000 or $5 million or whatever depending on the thief's grade or their
Ah,
operating efficiency, they will demand different ransom.
okay.
So somebody encrypted the system, told them transfer $5 million worth of Bitcoin. I don't know if they asked for $505 million, but they asked for
Right.
something,
Yeah, 100
ransomware.
million, I think, if I'm not mistaken. The according to the, I'm just pulling it up. We don't have Jamie here, like you know, Joe Rogan has, but I can pull it up here. It says one of the largest gambling firms, MGM, shut down. This is CNN Business, by the way. Shut down its
Mm,
systems after detecting the attack to contain damage. It said it also expects to incur less than $10 million as a related one-time cost.
mm,
Um, but MGM Resorts International said on Thursday a cyber attack last month. This is an old article. So last month
mm.
that disrupted its operation would cause 100 million hit to its third quarter results. So it doesn't share how much was like.
They won't tell you that because the other
Yeah,
option is you pay that ransom, and then what is the guarantee that you are going to get that key back? Are you really going to trust a thief who
who's
says you give
already
me
stolen
five
exactly.
eggs?
No,
So
you're right, because they said MGM has declined to comment on whether it was asked for or paid any ransom.
yeah, of course, they will decline. So, but anyway, that is the whole point. So ransomware was
Yeah.
used, and ransomware is a relatively new phenomena. So that is a good example. Ransomware is a good example of how something that was created for a good purpose can also be used as a, it's like a double-edged weapon,
What's good
you
good
can say.
what's good purpose in this? I'm confused here.
Not ransomware, encryption, I meant.
Encryption,
Sorry.
okay. Oh, okay. Got it. So
Sorry.
encryption rules the wrong way, causing the ransomware.
Correct. So ransomware is nothing but somebody coming in and changing the lock on your door
Essentially, okay.
and not giving you the key
Right.
and saying go figure it out or give me $5 million. So
Wow.
so they locked in such a way that you're not even able to enter the house from anywhere. So don't imagine that, oh, you'll just break the lock and enter the house. If it was that easy, then everybody would have done that. But they have put
Exactly.
such a lock that even if you break open, there is no way you can get in, and there are no windows to the house, so you can't really get in from anywhere else.
This is interesting. So I want to ask you about the first
Yes.
part that you said, right? Where your option is only now to throw this house and build another
Mm.
one. But for that, you
Mm.
need a backup. So let's say you had a backup of your, I can't
Assuming you
just,
had a backup,
assuming, yeah, assuming
so
that you
if
had
they
all
had
of
a
the information.
backup, but
Yeah,
even if you did,
yeah,
it took you years to build that system to that level.
right. So you're going to lose. But then what happens? So do you just then live with the risk that suppose you don't want to pay that ransom, like it's
Mm.
an exorbitant amount,
No, the
but they
only
still have
defense you
stolen the
have.
data, right?
Yeah,
Your thief has still.
I don't know if they have stolen. You don't know that because what can happen is there are a couple of ways that this can get into your systems,
Okay.
right? The easiest and most prominent way, I would
Hmm.
say, is through your email. You get an email. You are an MGM employee, let's assume. You log into your work laptop Monday morning, you
Yeah.
get an email
Huh.
saying that, oh, holiday party at MGM Resorts in Las Vegas. And you are invited.
Okay.
You click on that.
Yeah.
You click on something. That email was not from your HR.
Hmm.
That email was in fact sent from somebody who wanted to get into the systems.
Hmm.
So you clicked on that. Now something was downloaded to your machine.
Hmm.
And you are one of those employees who have admin level access on systems.
Okay. I'm with you.
So couple of things can happen. Either that person can
Yeah.
steal your credentials and then get access to your systems and do whatever they want. In that case, they won't encrypt the
Hmm.
system. They will just take the information and leave. Because if you have the information, then why would you ask? You will get that information and sell it on some dark web or something and make money off of it.
Right.
The other way is you
Yeah.
don't get any credentials, you just click on something, but you are that person, you are an employee, you are connected to the internal network. I, as an outsider, I'm not connected to MGM's internal network, but you are on that network. You click on something, your device gets encrypted. All of your data gets encrypted on your device. Not only that, when you clicked on that link and you installed a software on your machine, it not only did it encrypt your machine, it sent that same to 15 of your colleagues.
Hmm.
So now I've gotten into your system, not really to get data, but now I'm encrypting everybody's systems. And then wherever that network goes, how much ever that network has reached, because there's called network is nothing but interconnected computers. So
Gotcha.
let's say that all of your computers are on one single giant network. So all
Hmm.
of them are interconnected. You get send this thing on one, it propagates onto all the other, and then gets hold of all the system,
Okay.
and you're
No, makes
good.
sense. Makes sense because once you get into the door, you
Correct.
what you kind of take over is all now it's fair game, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that is
Interesting,
how
man.
that happened.
Yeah. This is super interesting.
Yeah. So and then the cause is usually harmless. It's not these news report sensationalizes it so much. That MGM hacked for $100 million, blah blah blah. It's the biggest hack in 2023, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
Like what exactly did happen there? A person clicked on a link in an email. That's what happened on a
Hmm.
simplest level. And other thing that also happened there is MGM had insufficient controls to prevent the repercussions of that action. Because one employee clicking on one link should not destroy all your systems, right? So that coming back to our first point, the way you have designed your network is a flaw here.
Hmm.
Because if you had designed your network in such a way that you as an employee, your system only has access to, is only connected to 5 systems. And then there is other level of access, and there is another level of access, but you only are connected to 5. So at most, I could have, if I were to get through you
Right.
and you were to click on a link, at most 5 systems can get infected, so to say, or 5 systems can fall prey to this. Versus everything is on one single giant network. You get through one, you get through 1,000. So that is how you have limited the damage by design. If
Ah.
you designed the systems properly.
Let
So
now in this um example that you gave, the central point
mm,
was me, right? When
correct.
I say me as in a person, right?
Person,
Let's
yes.
stay on this because now I think you're getting towards like social engineering aspects, right? The
Correct.
biggest vulnerability is the human.
That's a very annoying statement.
Yeah.
Also, another sensationalized statement is your employees are your weakest link. Come on. I mean,
No,
people
they're not.
have in hey, people
You
have
disagree?
inherent weaknesses. I mean, it is true, but it doesn't have to be sensationalized. Doesn't need to be sensationalized like that, is my opinion. I don't, it's not something to disagree on, but that just demeans people, in my opinion. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
you are the weakest link. Like, what? Yeah, I'm better than you. I know better. Nobody knows better. Everybody, given their frame of mind at that point in time, can fall prey to any of these things. So nobody's immune
No,
to this type of.
I get like nobody is immune, but see, there's a distinction, right? Otherwise, me
No,
as
but
an IT employee, yeah,
saying people are your weakest link
yeah,
does not absolve you from the responsibility of building the system
yeah.
securely.
No, well said, well
Because
said.
that is what most organizations or most vendors end up doing that are selling cybersecurity software.
Huh.
They will come to you and pitch you saying that your humans are your weakest link. So buy our product that will safeguard. No, it does not work that way. If you still design your system, if your design is still flawed,
Right.
no matter how many tools you put in place, that is not going to prevent anything.
When you say design is flawed, as in design of what you're protecting, like if you're
Correct.
building.
I mean, in this case, a network design, right? You built your network in such a way that one person's computer, once you infect it, could infect 10,000 other computers versus keeping people on segregated networks, for example.
Right.
So you could have
Hmm.
limited your impact on 5 systems, but you designed poorly, so now that impact is felt by 50,000 systems. Does that really mean humans are your weakest link? No, humans are your weakest link, but your system design was flawed. So it is a
Hmm.
combination of both. You can't just put everything on the humans and then put your hands up and be like, oh, humans are my weakest link, so this happened. No, there was a way for you to prevent that.
Yeah, no, there was a way to prevent that, and one of the ways is like education. And I know as a former IT employee also, and someone working in IT, they always
Mhm.
give us like trainings, right? Like don't click on this email. So there's a little bit of awareness, like look at the sender, right? Because they'll
Correct.
just spoof something like Microsoft and then add a few words. But
Look at the spelling.
yeah, look at the spelling, look at all of this. But
Were
one
you
of the
expecting that email, Jigadi?
exactly, exactly. But see, for me, it might I can still get food, but what about people who are like cross a certain age, and let's not be ageist also, but um, people who don't have
Who are
exposure. So like
not
boomers, yeah,
familiar with
yeah,
technology as much
yeah,
as the newer generation is,
correct,
just by the
exactly.
nature of technology. Yeah.
Nature of technology, just exposure. Like I don't have exposure to what
Hmm.
12, 13 years or 16 years or 18-year old,
Hmm.
what technology they are using. Like we don't have a purview in that. So in with that, it's very. I know there's a lot of issues that happen with like older people.
Mhm.
So do you think it'll be good to get someone on and get their
Absolutely.
questions, right?
I think
So
that will be very valuable to have someone
yeah,
and have them ask their questions. What do they face
yeah,
in their everyday life, or what are they worried about? Because all of what we have discussed so far is in business context, but we
right.
can also shed some light on everyday context for a lay person who is not a technical person whose occupation is not IT, let's say.
Exactly. Bang on, man. That's I've actually invited like my father, and
Okay.
he's on. I think let me bring it in. Hi, Baba.
Hi. Hello. What's up?
All good, all good. So, Baba, we are
Yeah.
doing a podcast here on like cybersecurity and stuff, and what Advait thought would be also good, and we discuss and something we'd like
Okay.
to take questions. Hate to say it, but people from a certain generation who've crossed a certain age have a different exposure to technology, right? So, what are some of the
Yes.
problems? So, Advait can answer the questions for you and maybe some of your friends and people at your age who are facing some certain problems.
What are your worries about, what do you worry when it comes to technology,
Hello there.
or anything that
Okay.
comes to mind? There is no set agenda here. You can ask anything that you want or anything that you can think of. If
Yeah,
nothing,
Okay.
then we'll just general chit chat and then see
we've
how
put
it
my
Mhm.
goes.
father on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, digital transaction is very, very convenient.
Mm-hmm.
We come from a generation where, for small, small things, we have to stand in the queue, and we were working also. and
Mm-hmm.
it was difficult, to take off from the working day and stand in the queue for electricity bill, your telephone bill, and all that. And ever
Correct.
since we learned how to pay them online, it has been really a convenient mode of transactions. But along with that, we are a little bit scared also about uh, what if, we do some mistake and all our money
Mm-hmm.
is gone from the account.
Right.
Now, first of all, my concern is about the credit card and the account and its app.
Mm.
Say we have two or three accounts, so and we are using the app for those banks.
Mm-hmm.
So the banks are different, so their passwords are different. Similarly, you have the transaction ID,
Correct.
which they ask that every 3 months you keep on changing.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from that, we have credit card, the debit card.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember their password also. And
Right.
then you have so many applications where the passwords are required.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, what happens is we are having lots of passwords and
Right.
we can't remember all of them. So best thing is to write it down in some book, and whenever required, you refer to that book. But
Mm-hmm.
that book becomes so precious, and
Right.
always there is a, like, if it goes into some wrong hands, then you have it, because all
Correct.
your data, all your code words, all your passwords, they are all written down systematically over there.
Correct.
And this is what is one of the major concerns. And
Mm.
we will take one by one. So how
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
we
So
do
that
about this?
is, so what you described is a solution already existing called password manager. Okay.
Okay.
So what you do essentially in a password manager, what you are doing is also a password manager. But it is a
Hmm.
physical password manager. You're writing, maybe you'll be writing it on a paper, you're writing on a book that you keep in your safe, right?
Yes.
So let's say you travel from India to the US tomorrow. You have to remember to carry that paper with you when you travel
Yes.
from India to the US or anywhere abroad. Otherwise,
Hmm.
you can't log into any of your bank accounts and any of those things.
Yes.
So that is one. The other thing is that once you change, they make you change every 3 months. So once you change, you're canceling out the old one, writing a new one, and updating on that. It becomes very painful.
Hmm.
So there is an
Yes.
alternative called password managers that are digital.
Okay.
It will be another app on your phone.
Okay.
And then what it does is all you have to do is remember one password, right? Only one password. Think of it
Okay.
as a digital safe. So you had a
Okay.
safe in your house that where you kept that piece of paper or that book. But this is a digital safe where you're keeping that, and then in your house context, you're remembering only the password of that or code of that safe that you
Okay.
remember. In digital
Hmm.
context, you will remember just one password,
Okay.
and then all your hundreds of passwords are stored in there. So
That sounds good.
that is an alternative. Yeah. And there is also an app.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry
Okay.
about, oh, I'm traveling tomorrow. So do I need to, should remember to carry my things with me. Your phone goes with you. So
Okay.
whenever you have your phone, you can unlock that password manager and then see all your passwords. Let's say you have bank one. So you go search
Hmm.
for bank one. The only thing
Hmm.
is, so first time you sign up to that, you have to
Hmm.
enter all your passwords in there
Okay.
manually because it doesn't have any knowledge of
Okay.
but that is one of the ways that everyone can use, and it is not very difficult to use, I would say. It is like
But is
it
it
is a
safe?
it is
Again, that question. Is it safe?
ah yeah.
Can
So
we
that
can
is
it be
so
breached?
you have to guard now that one just like you're guarding your notebook. So in security, wherever there is cyber security, especially, you put one layer of defense on top of another and top of another, and there will always be that one layer that you will have to protect.
Okay.
That is the outermost layer because there is no
Okay.
escape. That is
Okay.
the curse of passwords, and we have created that. Now we are trying to
Mhm.
move away from it, but it is going to take a while to get away
Okay.
from passwords. So there
Is
are
it
about
recommended
two
for personal security, cyber security, Advait, having like a
a
password
password
manager?
manager. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I would recommend that.
Okay.
I mean, you can,
Okay.
like, people can argue that you asked about how safe that is, right? So again, that is some system storing your data somewhere,
Right.
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you have to put some trust somewhere, is the point. Do you put that trust on your piece of paper that is in the safe, or you put that trust in the
In the password that you have to
digital
remember, and
safe?
that's only one.
One password, correct. And so
Mm,
that is the question it comes down to. The advantage, I think, of using that password manager is because when you're setting your own password and writing them down, you are going to do something, my name at the rate 123, my birth date, something like that, some combination you are going to try, or my wife's name, or my kid's name, or my
Yes.
mother's name, something like some combination of that you are going to use. Or worse, you are
Yes.
going to use summer at 123, winter at 123, something like that you are going to
or
say.
just password. I know so many people who
Just
just write
password,
password
yes.
is password only. PASSWORD. I'm like that. Baba, don't if you've kept that, don't say it. But
Yeah, but anyway,
No, no,
so
no.
so that is
It's not about that. But generally, we keep something which we can easily remember.
right.
correct,
And
exactly, because you are trying to also remember. So what happens is you get away from that habit of remembering passwords when you
Mhm.
use the digital password manager, because what it can do is it can randomly generate sequence of numbers and characters. Okay, so it will be, and when setting a password, the only thing that most people should worry about is how long it is,
Ah,
because the longer the
yes.
password and random, the better. But why is that the case? Because it is not easier, it is easier to guess a shorter password, right? Just
Mhm.
mathematically, if you think about it, if your password is only 3 characters, there is only a small number of permutations or combinations, whatever is the right term for it. But there's only going to be a sequence of three, so you have to try from 3 letters A through Z and make a 3 letter word, or combination of A through Z and 0 to 9 and make a 3 letter word. A through Z, 0 to 9 special characters make a 3 letter word. But you're only making a 3 letter. There can only be so many combinations of a 3 letter word.
Mm,
And I can compute all the combinations of that 3 letter word and keep trying to break into your account. Because it is a bank. I know you have money there. So I'm going
Yes.
to try to break into that constantly. And then it's much easier. But against that, if you put a 15 character password, now I have to try that many more combinations of 15 characters, even though
Mhm.
my original set is the same. So it makes it much harder for someone to guess that and break into. So that
Okay.
is definitely an advantage of digital password managers, is your passwords will be more random than
longer
what
the
you would
better.
normally set when writing on a piece of paper.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And a related question is like, okay, I put all my passwords into the password manager. It is safe. But then, suppose I am using my credit card. I want to withdraw
Uh-huh.
some money, debit card
Hmm.
rather, and I want
Right.
to withdraw the money. So my PIN and everything is there in that safe. And while I am
Correct.
doing the transaction, I need to recall. So is it
Right.
right? Means I should be on the phone in order to. Uh,
Yeah, you will need your phone to see that PIN
yes.
code if you don't remember
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you'll have to just unlock the application and search for that debit card or credit card number or something.
mhm.
You can name all these things. So all of this
Okay.
will be named. So let's say you have bank one, bank two, bank three, bank four, and you
Mm-hmm.
you created an entry called bank one credit card, bank two credit card, bank four credit card, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you can add those, and then when you go, you can just search. There's search option. You can just search credit card, and it will show you bank four. You just go to bank four. Much easier for us because we are so used to working with apps, but it is not difficult. You can also learn.
Okay. Another question. related
Mm-hmm.
one. Like we hear many cases, like
Uh-huh.
you go to some mall and you use your credit card, and somehow
Uh-huh.
there are people you cannot means. I'm not blaming everyone, but there are
Correct.
some places where
Might be people.
I heard about cloning the card. About what is it about? Like what care we should take so that this doesn't happen to us.
That is a very tricky thing to prevent because we have very little control over whatever terminal that they are using. Terminal as in
Mhm.
the machine that they are using. Because what happens in cloning is that machine has been tampered with. So somebody has put, you have to install the cloner inside the machine. So you have to open the machine, put something in where it reads the card, and then lock that machine up again. So next time somebody puts their card in there, uh, it reads all the information and then clones that into another. But I think they have made the chip cards can't be cloned. So as long as I think one easy way to prevent that is use your chip mechanism versus the swipe. Because I think the magnetic strip on that card, that is the thing that they clone and not the chip. The
Okay.
chip is difficult to clone, or I think maybe
So,
impossible to clone.
so most of the cards now they are Wi-Fi enabled. So you just put there
Correct. You can
and
even
then
tap or chip is would be the safest versus swipe. So I think to prevent that, avoid
okay,
swiping the card as much as possible. Use the chip and then use this thing, tap to pay if you have that. Contactless.
okay,
That's an important
okay.
suggestion.
I heard one more thing. Like you have your debit card in your pocket,
Uh-huh.
and somebody brings a swiping machine close to your pocket, just passes by, and then it
Uh-huh.
reads all the information that they want, and your money is all siphoned. Is it possible? Like I have heard the stories like that.
Tap doesn't require PIN. So
Okay.
what you can do is it might be possible because what do you know, right? You have a card and
Huh.
then you are bringing it close to a system. The card doesn't have any understanding of when it should operate. It just reads a signal in both sides.
Yes.
If signal matches, then it proceed. You can set limits on how much you can spend on tap. So that
Okay.
way you can limit your damage at least, if
Okay.
not completely avoid it. There are also
Mm-hmm.
wallets that come built in that block all frequencies. So it is like frequency based communication, like radio communication type thing, right? When
Mm-hmm.
the card
Mm-hmm.
is read by the machine. So there are specially designed wallets that block all
Mm-hmm.
the frequencies. So if you have that kind of wallet, that is, but that gets very advanced.
Okay.
I don't think it is easily possible if it is 3 layers deep in your wallet. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
somebody can just bring a machine closer because the tap itself will not work from that distance. So I don't
Okay.
think it is a very easy thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it is possible to do. If the
Yes.
card is just in your pocket, somebody comes close and then there's not enough space between the card and the machine, then it might be possible to do that. But then adding that safeguard on the amount that you can pay with tap can at least minimize the damages that can be done.
And nowadays we are getting some message from the bank also. Ki,
Hmm.
you have done this transaction. If not, you call. That
Correct.
is after the transaction. That is a safety measure. I think every bank also is taking. And
Yeah.
if you read the message instantly, I
Hmm.
mean, you have to be alert about messages
Correct.
coming from your banks, so
Right.
that you take the action in time. So that is
Right.
also a safety feature, and which is quite welcome for people
Yeah,
like us.
it has definitely improved
Mhm.
since it has all started. But the
Mm.
fraudsters also evolve. So
Mm.
they take different methodology, they use different methodologies, they use different techniques to fool people in a way.
Mhm.
So
Okay, there are many questions that are coming in my mind now.
We'll have to limit your
Now
questions
you,
or no?
now, now you mentioned, I hope we don't have any time to, so I get my doubts cleared. I want to get my doubts cleared. So one more question is that you mentioned about, manager app. password
Mm-hmm.
manager, and I
Mm-hmm.
download it. Huh? First of all, it has to be verified.
Correct.
Uh, 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 my question is, how do we verify that? Because there are so
Mm.
many things. And every app that I download, they will ask for my location. That's okay.
Mm.
Second thing is they want to manage my phone calls.
Mm.
And there are only two options, like allow, don't allow. And if you
Mm.
don't press the allow button, then you don't proceed into that app. So
Right.
that's the biggest question. And
Mm.
one thing that s- uh, very much gives doubt in my mind is that why the hell they want to have access to my photos?
Correct.
Because I
So,
will
uh,
uh, just my this
go
thing,
ahead.
like while traveling we carry the hard copies along with us, but in case suppose, you know, in traveling, suppose you lose your
Correct.
very important
Documents.
documents, then at least something you should have, that, you know, the image of your passport, or image of
Correct.
your social security
PAN
number.
card or something.
There are some, and you need it very often, like when you go to the bank, they ask for KYC every now and then. Every
Right.
year you have to update it. So every time you don't carry the Xeroxes along with.
Physical
So
proof. Yeah.
convenient. It is convenient to carry uh, the picture of your documents, and then of course there are some apps where you can put them in wallet or something, you know, a
Mm-hmm.
safety vault or something. But not sure of those. So what do
Mm-hmm.
we do, and
So
why do?
that's a great question. And then always any app you install on your phone should always check if that permission makes sense. Just don't use that app otherwise, because unless it is a make or break app, like something like UPI apps that you have to use, but that
Mhm.
won't ask for ridiculous permissions, hopefully. But there
Mhm.
will be apps by third parties, because anyone can, I can write an app, I can build an app and publish it for you to
Okay.
download. Anyone can,
Okay.
Naveen can build one and publish it. So there is no restriction on that. You have to first check who has built the app. So when you go to download in the Play Store, there is a
Mm.
publisher or developer name there. Make sure that
Okay.
matches the app, because Zomato will be developed by Zomato. Zomato app will be developed
Mhm.
by Zomato, not by
Mhm.
some random third party. So make
Mhm.
sure the app actually belongs to Zomato, not something that I have published in and called it Zomato one, something like that.
Mhm.
And you're
Mhm.
now
Mhm.
downloading my app instead of. There are plenty of such fraudulent loan apps on Play Store, and it is a
Yes.
big risk. And then there is no incentive for Google or Apple to fix that. So they do a terrible job of removing those apps. So
Mhm.
those apps will show up on your screen when you search for an app, but they're actually not legitimate. You have to be extremely careful what you're downloading. And
Mhm.
another thing to keep in mind is when you download something and it is asking you for photos permission, right? For example, or phone call permission. Why does a banking app need phone call permission? It shouldn't need it.
Yes. Yes.
So it may need SMS because it may have to send you, OTP, SMS, and whatnot. So it may need message permission, but it doesn't need call permission. It doesn't need to know who you are calling, what you're doing, nothing.
Exactly.
So just decline that permission. The app should still continue
Okay.
to work.
Okay.
Unless it is a terrible app, it will continue to work, because I know some of the apps
Okay.
that will just refuse to work if you. And it is best, if you are not comfortable, just best to not use that app. There will be alternatives. And if you
Okay.
absolutely have to use it, then make sure all these things are in order.
Mhm.
So yeah, photos access, location access. Like let's take another example, maybe something, I don't know. What other app can we take as an example that shouldn't need all these permission? Let's say you have an app that you are using for expense tracking, for example. You
Mhm.
just want to upload what you just want to add what where you spend what, and
Mm.
that's all it should
Okay.
be doing. But you may not necessarily need call and SMS permission for that app. You may still need photos permission, because you may just want to take a picture of a receipt or bill that you paid, and then it
Mm-hmm.
automatically captures and adds that an expense. So that is still something that is relevant. So it might,
Mm-hmm.
even then, you can restrict access to some photos versus giving blanket access to all photos.
Yes.
And I don't know Android, if Android does that, but iOS lets you give limited access. So you can select what photos the app can have access to. So that is in
Okay.
your concern of, having sensitive documents
Mm-hmm.
is addressed in a way
Okay.
where the operating system itself doesn't let you give access or gives you an option to limit the access versus, yes or no, blanket access.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of
Okay.
the things that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a great question.
Of course, we have to see, like, because while downloading that app, we get only two options: allow or don't
Correct,
allow.
correct.
And then there should be some more option where you can
But first, I would
restrict them.
recommend just deny. If you
Deny.
don't
Okay.
agree, deny.
Okay.
Just deny it. Nothing will happen.
Okay.
I think people are
Okay.
just in the habit of clicking allow, allow, next, yes, yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just say no. The app will still continue to work in
Mm.
most cases, unless it is a critical functionality. So Google
Okay.
Maps, for example, right? Google Maps needs your location because it wants to know
Yes.
where you are
Of course.
exactly. But even if
That
you
is
don't give it
understandable.
location, even if you deny the location permission, it should still function. A good app should still function and should let you see the map, just the
Okay.
map, without knowing my
Okay.
current location. But
Okay.
we have very little control over that. It
Mm.
is mostly designed by whoever develops the app.
Mm. Okay. Another question.
This will be
Well,
the last
we are
question, Baba.
using.
We'll take because we'll do multiple segments,
Okay.
but
Okay.
We'll
just in the
do,
interest of
we'll
time.
address, yeah, we'll address next other questions in the next segment. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely
Okay.
we'll do more.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, no, one
Thank
more.
you.
No, no, one more. Yes.
One
One
more.
question, one quick question we'll take.
Okay. This is one of my biggest concern, while using the laptop. The messages keep on propping up, like your firewall or some uh, uh, what you call them,
Your system
the
is out of date, something like that.
out of date. Yes, yes, exactly. You have to renew it, pay so much, pay here, this thing, all those kind of messages, they do come up. And you are never sure, like, how to tackle this
Correct,
problem,
handle them.
because the sources are unknown generally,
Correct,
because whomsoever you are paying, they are known to you and in the general transactions. But
correct.
this is something where the source is, we never know. And
So I think your first thing is don't never pay. First of
okay,
all, never pay.
okay,
Just cancel it. Your thing continues to work if you cancel it. It is
okay,
not stopping you from doing any of the tasks. Another
okay,
indication if that is popping up is you don't have the genuine version of the software. So a lot of time
okay.
what has happened, especially with Windows, is whoever has set up the laptop has used a pirated version of Windows. So
Okay.
so they have installed that pirated version, and now that version is asking because it is trying to connect to something, but it is
Okay.
not able to because it is not the original version. The original, if you have
Mhm.
original Windows version, the only thing it should prompt you for is you have new updates that you need to install. But there should not be any
Okay.
payment a payment step. Wherever there is a
Mhm.
payment step, there is something,
Fishy about it.
yeah, there is something fishy about that. So first is never pay.
Okay.
Second is we'll have to check the laptop and see if it is a genuine version and then install a genuine version, because I think lot of people, which is natural, opt for it because it costs less money. So a guy
Mhm.
who's doing the work setting up the computer, he says that I can give you two options. One is 1,000 rupees and other is 5,000 rupees. Of course, people will choose one with 1,000 rupees because, and what he does, he installs that same pirated version into five laptops and gets 5,000 rupees for himself because he
Mhm.
didn't pay for that software. He
Okay.
pirated that, and now he's just selling for 1,000 rupees each. But instead, 5,000 is a big amount in context, in comparison. But that gives you this assurance later in the day that nobody will come asking for, okay, you upgrade, your Windows is out of date, you need to upgrade and pay me money. Nothing will happen because that is only a problem in a software that is not genuine. So genuine software will not have that problem. So insist next time, and most people who are consumers of this, they will not know the difference between one or the other. Now we work
Yes.
in the field, so once we ask, what are you installing? What is the version? All these things, then
Mm-hmm.
we will know what that person is actually doing. Somebody who doesn't have, it's the same thing. I go to we may not have, we work in IT, we may not have a good idea about finance. So we go to a CA, whatever CA says, we agree, we listen to them. They say that, oh, you're not liable to pay this tax, and you say, okay, you're not liable. And immediately this person tells you that, okay, this version of Windows will work for you, don't worry about it. Don't spend 5,000 rupees. Then it comes down to who is giving you advice then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
The CA is genuine, that tells you, okay, this is not a liability if you do this. This is a liability if you do this. They will explain it to you. They'll explain the nuances to you. And similarly, a good IT person will tell you, okay, this is genuine software, this is not genuine software. You should, this is cost less money for now, but you should go for the genuine version because it is better in the long run. So things
In the
like
long
that.
run, yes, yes.
So I think those would be your options at that point in time.
Mm.
Perfect.
Well, thank you so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate, because these are some of the do's and don'ts that I would like to communicate to my friends also, those who are struggling with the same kind of problems. And
Yes.
it is really a valuable information that you have given. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Baba. Thank
All
you for
right.
joining, and we'll bring you in on the next one also.
Okay.
Yes, we'll do more sessions like this. We'll answer more questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Baba.
Thank you.
So you can stop the recording now.
Yes. Advait, we'll close this episode. Um, thank you again for giving your time, and we'll do more. I think we should do more because we didn't
Yes.
cover a lot of things. There's just
We didn't cover anything. This was just the basics of it. There
yes,
can be so many things that we
so
can talk
many
about,
things to talk about,
explore.
so many things. And even in just the conversation also, like the I didn't expect we'll have so many questions, but to be honest with you, a
It's
lot
great
of
to
questions.
give
So
someone a platform. Then
yeah,
obviously, I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. They just don't have anyone to ask those questions to,
yeah.
and don't have anyone to do.
Let's see
Uh,
where we can get more questions from also, because it I can try to emulate and think what someone may have, but it's better to get the
yeah, it's
natural
absolutely better.
questions, right? So
Absolutely.
fantastic. We'll do another one then.
Yeah.